Welcome to Special Guest Thursdays, where real voices bring real stories to life. This ain't just an interview. This is a spotlight on those making moves. Different paths, different struggles, different wins. But one thing in common, they showed up and leveled up. We're sitting down with leaders, creators, and game changers to talk pressure, purpose, and the mindset behind the grind. No scripts, no filters, just real. Because every guest brings gems, and every story brings power. This is the Final Boss Podcast, and this is Special Guest Thursdays. Tap in and tune up.
Welcome to the Final Boss Podcast. Special guest edition, right? Special guest Thursday, right? Y'all know what it is. Special guest Thursday. Man, look, I have a great show for you tonight. And listen, there's no special guests. And I have to do this episode, right? I have to do this episode, right? Think about it. This is business, and the business must continue. Hey, 𝗙𝗢𝗦𝗦, it is Thursday. Welcome. I want you guys to understand, right, that every now and again on Special Guest Thursdays, it would just be me and you. One of us would be the special guest, right? And tonight is no different. But you know what? Let me rephrase that. Let me say this. On Special Guest Thursdays, it may be you as the guest. It may be me as the guest, or it may be the Rebirth as the guest. As tonight, you would definitely find out in this very instance, on this very episode, that the Rebirth is the guest. And we're going to be talking about nobody claps for. What nobody claps for, right? What nobody claps for. And this is necessary, right? This is a necessary episode. And to each and every last single one of you, no matter where you are and where you're watching, if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, Kick, YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, thank you for joining us. Oh, how can I forget StreamYard? This is the platform. StreamYard, right? Thank you. And to all of you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Final Boss Podcast, episode number 215, Special Guest Thursdays. The Mirror. That's what this episode is called, The Mirror, right? Now, let's get rid of these banners. Get the banners out the way. All right, the banners are gone. Now it's just you and I, right? Now it's just you and I. Wait a minute. Let me set up this camera. Camera is set. Man, you know, nobody is clapping for you right now. Nobody is clapping for you right now. Think about it. Sit in that for a second, right? Sit in it. Think about who's clapping for you. And I'm going to tell you, nobody is clapping for you, right? No likes, no shares, no comments, no community hyping you up, no podcast episode dedicated to what you're doing. You are in the middle of something real. something hard, something that is changing you at a level most people around you can't even see. And the world is completely silent about it. And I need you to hear this, right? I need you to hear this, right? And I need you to hear me tonight. Oh, by the way, this is for entertainment purposes only, right? I know. Thank you for not minding being a guest. But this is something I need I need the sovereign, right? The sovereign is the smarts, the warriors, the motivators, to find out. I need y'all to hear this, right? And I need you to hear me tonight. I know I've said it a few times, but I want it to grasp a hold of you, right? And grasp a hold of you. Because what I'm telling you is this: not the version of you that shows up on social media, right? Not the version that performs okay when somebody asks how things are going, right? The version that sits with the truth at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, right? When you wake up or when you can't sleep, right? I want you to think about everything, when the moments that everything is quiet, and the weight of the transformation, weight of the world, and what you are in the middle of feels like it might actually be too heavy. Instead of having the weight of the world, you have the weight of the universe on your shoulders. I'm talking about that version. I'm talking to that version tonight, because all of us are going through it, right? Welcome. If this is your first time here, this is the Final Boss Podcast, Final Boss Community, Final Boss Nation, Final Boss Family, right? Season 4, the Rebirth. I am the Final Boss. We are live, special guest Thursday at 9 p.m., right? And tonight, there's no guest in the chair, because tonight, every single person in this audience is the guest, along with the rebirth, right? And we're talking about specifically the ones nobody is clapping for, right? So stay right there, right? Stay right there. This one is for you. Yeah. If you're brand new, like I said before, you picked the right night. You picked the right night to be on the Final Boss Podcast, right? Because this is not a highlight reel episode. This is not a success story wrapped in a bow, right? It's not a gift. Tonight's not a gift. Tonight is for the people in the process, the ones mid-transformation with no fanfare around them, right? We're live every Thursday, special guests, 9 p.m. live, 5 days a week, right? 5 different shows every week, right? Final Boss Network, right? Motivation Mondays, Tech Tuesdays with the Sensei, Merger Wednesdays, special guest Thursdays, and Sit Down Sundays, right? And if you are plugged into all 5 shows, then you are leaving content on the table, right? That was built specifically for your growth. So you need to be tuning in and watching all 5 shows weekly, right? You're going to learn something, right? And as tonight, with no guests, we're calling this episode The Mirror, right? We're going to be doing a reflection up to the audience through this very conversation, right? Because usually the conversation runs through a guest. Tonight, it runs through you. The community is the subject. The audience is the story. And the rebirth that nobody is acknowledging right now is that very topic, right? Season 4, the rebirth, right? It's the structural lens. It's the structural lens that this whole entire season has been running through, right? Not a theme, not a tagline, a lens. Everything gets filtered through it. And tonight, the filter is pointed directly at the solid work happening in your life right now that has not gotten a single clap. You haven't gotten a single clap for what you're going through right now, right? We got the whole entire community in here. The smarts, the warriors, the final bosses, the motivators, right? Everybody's in the building, right? Every single body's in the building. The sovereign is in the building, right? Shout out to the entire sovereign, right? Listen, if you know 3 people, don't gatekeep. Share the information. Like, share, subscribe. Share this episode with them right now while we're doing the episode live. Share it with them. 3 people who you think needs to hear this. They're in a mirror as well, right? But before we get into the mirror, man, we're going to talk about the brass tacks, right? And here's the brass tacks for tonight. And it comes from Harriet Beecher Stowe, right? And this is what she said, the brass tacks. When you get into a tight place and everything goes against you, till it seems as though you cannot hang on a minute longer. Never give up then. For that is just the place and time that the tide will turn, right? I'm going to read that to you one more time. I'm going to read it a little bit slower, right? That's the brass tacks. When you get into a tight place and everything goes against you, till it seems as though you could not hang on a minute longer. Never give up. Never give up in those moments. For that is just the place and time that the tide will turn. Shout out to Harry Beecher Stowe, right? Listen, when everything goes against you, not some things, we're talking about everything. Till it seems like you cannot hang on a minute longer. Not till it gets uncomfortable, till it feels impossible. And the instruction is never give up. Then, right? Not never give up in general, specifically then. In that moment of then, right? THEN, then, right? At the exact moment it feels most impossible. That is the moment Ms. Stowe is pointing at, right? Because that is the moment most people quit. Not because they are weak, because they are human, because the silence gets loud, because the work is real and the validation is nowhere, right? Because they look around and see other people getting celebrated for things that look a lot less significant, and then the then moment, right? A lot less significant than what they're grinding through right now, right? Miss Stowe wrote Uncle Tom's Cabinet in 1852 while raising 6 children, right? Managing a household with 0 resources. She did not wait for applause before she wrote. She wrote because the thing inside of her demanded to come out regardless of who was clapping. The tide turns. It always turns, but it turns for the people who are still in the water when it does. So hold on tight. Stay in the boat, right? Stay in the boat and hold on tight, because tonight we're going to understand the importance of staying in the then, right? I always say you either are going into a storm, you're in a storm, or you're coming out of that very storm, right? So let me tell you something. Let me tell you what this episode is not. right? We're talking is not what this episode is not, right? This is not a motivational speech. This ain't Motivation Monday. I'm not going to spend time telling you that everything is going to be okay and that your breakthrough is around the corner and that God has a plan and you just keep going. Mm-mm. You've heard all of that already. You hear it all the time. You probably have a playlist of it, right? And you're still sitting in the silence. So clearly, the problem is not that you lack motivation. The problem is something else entirely, right? And here's what I actually want you to do tonight, right? I want to name the specific experience of being in the real transformation that nobody around you can see. What is it called? Have you named it yet, right? And we talk about naming. It's a part of the audit, right? It's a part of the deliverance, right? Not because it is hidden on purpose, but because the transformation at the deepest level is invisible until it is complete, right? The butterfly is not visible while it's in the cocoon. The roots are not visible while the tree is growing. The foundation is not visible unless the building goes up. Most people are waiting for the building. They cannot see what they're laying underneath, right? And the gap between the invisible work and the invisible result is the loneliness place on earth, being in the void. I've talked about the void a few times. We're diving deeper, right? The void, the silence. People only see the beginning and the end. They don't see what's in the middle. In the middle is actionable. In the middle, things are happening, right? Things are happening. This is season 4, the rebirth. And the rebirth is exactly about what this is. Real rebirth doesn't happen on stage. It does not happen in front of a camera. It does not happen in the highlight reel. It happens in the quiet, in the mess, in the in-between, right? Tonight, we live inside of the in-between together. And by the time we are done, I want the people who are in it to feel less alone, right? Because we're on this journey together, right? That is the goal. Nothing more, nothing less, right? So, the invisible rebirth, right? The invisible rebirth. Now, you think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. And let me describe what it actually is from the inside, right? Imagine this, right? Walk this lane with me. You wake up and you're not the same person you were 6 months ago. You can feel it. The things that used to excite you do not hit the same way. The people you used to run with feel like they are speaking a language you are slowly forgetting. The frequency is different. The goals that used to feel enormous feel like a warm-up now, not because you got smaller, because you got bigger. And nobody around you got the memo, right? They still treat you like the before version. Still expect the before version's reactions. Still operate inside the before version's ceiling, right? And you're sitting there trying to explain something you cannot fully articulate yet because you are still inside it. Here is what it is, right? That's not confusion, people. That is not a crisis. That is the friction of becoming. You cannot grow into a new version of yourself without the old version feeling unfamiliar. The disorientation is not a sign something is wrong. It is the evidence that something is working, right? But nobody tells you that. What? Nobody tells you that. So you sit in it and you wonder if you're losing your mind instead of understanding that you are losing your limitations. These are two completely different things, right? You have to know which one is actually happening to you, right? You have to know what you're going through, right? You have to know. And some people, they need validation. And validation is a trap. Validation is a trap. You hear me? It's a trap, right? And here's the thing about the silence, right? Because it's not a verdict. But your brain will fight you on it every single day, right? Most people slow down their transformation not because they ran out of energy, but because they ran out of witnesses. Nobody is watching, so they start to wonder if it's even real. Nobody is clapping, so they start to negotiate with themselves about whether the sacrifice is worth it. The silence starts to feel like judgment, like the absence of noise means the absence of value. Sit in that, right? Think about it. That is the trap. That's the trap. And once you're in it, it compounds, like compounds interest, right? Because then you go to social media looking for the validation for the silence that no one's giving you. And you find somebody else's highlight reel, their best moments next to your hardest one, their polished result next to the unfinished foundation that you're trying to build. And something in you starts to calibrate your worth to that comparison, right? I need you to stop right there. Full stop. Halt. Full stop, right? Flag on the play. Flag on the play. Stop, right? We're waving the red flag. We're waving the red flag. Stop right there, right? Think about the trap, right? Think about the trap of validation, right? Because validation never was the fuel. It was always the bonus. When you build a life that requires an audience to stay in motion, you have handled the audience the steering wheel, right? And the audience is inconsistent, right? And for some of you out there trying to drive who can't even drive a stick, you're stuck trying to get in first gear, right? You're distracted and not paying attention to anywhere that you're trying to build as much as you think you are, right? The silence is not universe ignoring you. The silence is the universe removing the distraction of performance so that the work can actually get done. So it can get done, right? Every season that produced something real in someone's life, was preceded by a season that looked like nothing from the outside. That is not coincidence. That is design. Work done without an audience. That's a different destiny, my friends. A different destiny. A different destiny than work done for an audience, right? The silence is where the destiny gets built. You need to use it. And you don't need to fight it. Right? And guess what? We're transitioning from the validation trap. And it's go time, baby. It's go time. It's go time, right? It's go time. You see it? It's go time, man. It's go time. And here's the people problem, right? Here's the people problem. Because this one doesn't get talked about enough, right? And it needs to be said. The hardest part of silent rebirth is not the silence. The hardest part of the people inside the silence with you who cannot see what is happening, right? The people who love you, the ones who have been with you since before the transformation started. They're not your enemies. They're not trying to hold you back, but they knew the version before, right? They knew the before version. They are comfortable with the before version, right? And the new version showing up in the same body with different priorities and the different energy is genuinely confusing the fuck out of them, right? shit, right? So they pull. They're pulling, right? Not maliciously, out of familiarity, right? They make comments that feel like anchors. They ask questions that assume you are still who you were, right? They got quiet when you talk about where you're going, because where you are going does not map out to what they know about you. And you have a choice. You have a choice in that very moment to say it's go time. Not a green flag. Tell them it's go time, right? You can think back into the before version to make room for the comfortable, or to make them feel comfortable, right? Or you can hold the new version steady and let the discomfort exist. I prefer the discomfort. Everybody needs to be uncomfortable, right? Everybody needs to be uncomfortable. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Everybody needs to be uncomfortable, right? Everybody. Most people shrink. Not because they do not believe in the vision, because the social cost of holding the new version in front of people who prefer the old version is something nobody prepared them for, right? The rebirth will cost you. It will cost you a lot, right? It will cost you a lot. And that's not a tragedy, right? That's a tax. Every level of transformation has a social tax attached to it. The people meant to be in the next chapter will find you right there. They're the ones who's supposed to be there, right? The people who only fit the last chapter will eventually find their peace with where they go, right? Hold that new version, even when people prefer the old one. That's not arrogance, people. That is loyalty to you. That is loyalty to where you are going, right? And to my warriors, let's start with you guys, right? Let's start with the community talk. To my warriors, I need to talk to you directly right now, right? I need you to hear me out. You already understand sacrifice without recognition. You've lived it. You deployed. You served. You did things in most places most people would never go to, a country that would never fully understand what that cost was. You did not get a parade every time you did your job. Most of the time, you got silence and you kept going. So why is the civilian version of you so much harder? You've been deployed. You've been to combat. You've been to, and dealt with other cultures with less. You became less. You were bigger in less, right? And here's what I think. Right? In uniform, the mission was external. The enemy was external. The objective was external. You could see what you were fighting, right? And you could see when the objective was secured. But I need you to understand, in this next chapter, the mission is internal, right? The battlefield is your own mind. The objective is a version of yourself that does not exist yet, right? And there is no after action review, no AAR, right? No AAR to tell you how you did. The ambiguity is harder than combat for a lot of veterans, right? For a lot of veterans. Not because warriors are soft, because warriors are trained to operate in defined theaters. And personal transformation is anything but defined. But here is what I want you to know. This is what I want you to know, warriors. You do not need applause to complete a mission you never have. The claps were never there, right? The claps were never there. I can't tell you how many times we've saved this world, right? The civilians don't know about the mission. They don't know what you've done. They don't know how many times we saved the world, right? In the silence. I need you to apply that same standard to the transformation you're in right now, because the mission is real. The terrain is slightly harder, right? But the objective is worth it. I need you to complete that mission. Warriors, veterans, I need you to complete that mission. And guess what? Nobody has to clap for it to make it count. Nobody. But I'm going to clap for you. Right? I'm going to clap for you. And to my motivators, right? My motivators in the room. This is for you. Right? This is for you. This is what I need you to understand. You are the people who show up for other people. Every single day. Every single day, you pour. You encourage. You hold people up. You remind people that they're great. You remind people of their potential. You remind them of who they are when they can't see it themselves. And you guys are pretty darn good at it, right? But I want to ask you something. And I want you to ask you something right now tonight, right? This is something I need you to sit in with this thought honestly, right? And I keep asking this. I'm going to keep asking this during the rebirth. Yeah. Who is showing up for you? Because here is the quiet reality of the motivator's rebirth, right? It's almost always happens in total isolation. You're busy being the person who keeps others through transformation, that your own transformation gets no support, has no support infrastructure. You do not have a motivator. You are the motivator, right? And so your rebirth happens in the background of everyone else's journey, right? While you are coaching someone through their hard season, yours is running simultaneously with no coach. While you are holding someone else's vision, holding someone else's hand, standing beside them, right? With both hands. Your vision is sitting on the table, right, waiting for someone to pick it up. That is not sustainable, motivators. I think a lot of you know this, right? The rebirth is not just the people you serve, it is for you. And the version of you that comes out of the season needs you to treat your transformation with the same intention and care you give to everyone else. Stop being the last person. Stop being the last person on your list. Your rebirth matters. Your silence matters. Your in-between matters. Not just because it makes you better for the people you serve, because it makes you whole for yourself. You cannot pour from a vessel that never gets refilled. Go find your refill. You need to find it tonight, right? I'm preaching. Right? And to my smarts, the thinkers, the researchers, the ones who have read the books and understand the frameworks and who can articulate the transformation is supposed to look like in a conceptual level. This one is specifically for you. And speaking of which, if you haven't gotten go time, all aboard the fired up train, go get go time. You see it behind me, but here it is again, right? Go get go time. All aboard the fired up train. Now, a bestseller. And where all books are sold, right? Where all books are sold. Right. And to my smarts, this is the trap for the smart people, right? This is the trap the smart people fall into that almost nobody talks about. You can intellectualize your rebirth to the point where you're never actually experiencing it. You understand the psychology of transformation. You know the stages. You can cite the research. You have the frameworks. And you use it all the time. And you use all of that knowledge to stay one step removed from the actual lived experience of the transformation and what it demands. Because the actual lived experience is messy. It is not logical. It does not follow the framework cleanly. It has emotions in it that cannot be categorized. And in those moments, there's no model that can fit in it. Right? Smart people are deeply uncomfortable with things that do not fit in the model. So you keep studying transformation instead of going through it. You keep analyzing the rebirth instead of surrendering to it. You stay in observer mode because the observer mode feels safer than participant mode, right? The rebirth is a participant sport. You cannot think your way through it. At some point, the books have to close. You have to close the books. Close them, right? And the work has to start. And the clean conceptual understanding has to get dirty with the real world. Your intelligence is a weapon, but right now, some of you are using it as a shield. We know you're smart, right? But are you working on you? Are you using your smarts on you in this silence, in the moment of the rebirth, right? It's time to put the shield down. Get in the fire, right? The framework will still be there when you come out on the other side, and you will understand at the level that books could never teach you, except for the Go Time book, of course, and the Go Time series. Oh, by the way, Go Time 2 is on its way, baby. Go Time 2 is on its way. Yes, indeed. Go Time 2 is on its way. Let me tell you, I'm ready. I'm excited, right? Now, we talked about an earlier trap, right? We talked about the validation trap. Let's talk about the comparison trap, right? The comparison trap. And let me tell you this, right? Because I know this is eating a lot of people alive right now, and nobody is saying it clear enough, right? Nobody's saying it clear enough. You are watching somebody else's highlight reel and measuring it against your own life behind the scenes, right? And you are losing the comparison every single time. Not because you are behind, because you are comparing two completely different types of content, right? Their real versus your reality. Their best moments versus your hardest ones. Their public wins versus your private struggles. That comparison is not just unfair, it is a structural lie built onto this very thing that we call social media and how social media functions. You will never see their 2 a.m. moments. You will never see what they cried about last Tuesday. You will never see the version of them that almost quit 3 times last month. You just see the result. And your brain fills in the blank with an assumption that the journey to the result was clean, right? It was not clean. It was never clean, right? The person you are comparing yourself to is also in their silence, right? They're in their silence, trust me. Right? You just don't see it because they're not posting about it. The success you are watching on the screen is sitting on top of a foundation of invisible work that looked exactly like what you're doing right now, right? The comparison trap does not consist of one thing. It converts your momentum into someone else's. Every minute you spend measuring your rebirth against their highlight reel is a minute you're not spending building your own, right? You need to stay in your lane. Not as a motivational slogan, as an operational decision. Your lane is the only one going where you need to go, right? You still got that you still driving that stick and it's still in first gear. I know you're stuck, right? Everything else is a distraction dressed up as inspiration. It's time to lock in, people. It's time to lock in. It's go time. It is go time, man. Go time. It is go time. Go time 2 on the way, right? Go time 2 is on the way, right? But look, we talked enough about the silence. We talked enough about the void. We talked enough about the in-between. Let's advance this conversation. Let's talk about what's on the other side of the silence. What's on the other side of the rebirth, right? What's on the other side of it? And let's talk about it not in the reference of it being a promise, but as a pattern, right? Because I've watched it enough times to tell you with confidence that the pattern is real. The people who do the invisible work come out of the silence with something the people who perform through the process would never have. They come out with death, real death, the kind that holds weight. The kind that does not crack when pressure gets applied, the kind that cannot be faked or manufactured or purchased, right? The visible success that comes after a solid season of real transformation hits different. It hits different for you because you know what it costs. It hits different for the people around you because they can feel the foundation underneath it. There is a gravity to what gets built in the silence that things built for the audience never fully understand or achieve, right? Think about every person you have admired who went through real transformation. What did that period of look like for them, right? From the outside. Think about it. Think about the quiet. Think about the unremarkable. Think about sometimes it looked like they fell off. Think about sometimes people were asking where they went. And then they came back and everything was different, right? That is not a coincidence. That is how this works, right? You do not dig seeds to check if they're growing. You water them. You protect them. You trust the season, and then one day you walk out, and what was underground is above ground, and that is bigger than anything you could have grown if you had been performing instead of planting. Right? Stay in the ground. Season 5, the harvest is coming. Right? Season 5, the harvest is coming. I haven't addressed my final bosses. Let me address my final bosses, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Because you've been here before. You've had the season where nobody was watching, where the work was real and the room was empty, where you made decisions that looked reckless from the outside because nobody could see the vision you were operating from on the inside. And you came through it. And listen, I'm a testament to that. This episode right here can serve as my very own testimony, right? That one paragraph, I'm actually speaking to myself. Yeah, I'm the final boss, right? That one paragraph hits a little different, right? Which is exactly why I need you to play a specific role right now. You're a final boss, right? And it's not just for yourself. For the people around you who are in their first silent season and they're not sure if they're going to make it through, right? Final bosses carry something the people in their first rebirth desperately need. You carry the proof. Your existence is evidence that the silent season produces something real on the other side, coming out of the storm, right? Your story is a testimony that the invisible work was worth it. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into the storm, survived the storm, and I came out the storm, right? But proof only works when you share it. And I'm sharing my story with you 5 times a week, 9 p.m. live, right? Every week, unless I'm on a break or vacation. Evidence only helps you if you put it in front of the people who need it. Like, share, subscribe. Take this episode right now and send it to your people. Stop gatekeeping. You know people who need to see this. You know people who are not well. You know people who are in the solace. You know people who can resonate with the things that I'm saying. You have to share the process, right? They need to see this. They need to see it. Evidence only helps if you put it in front of the people who need it, right? Final bosses go quiet about the process once they get to the result. They show the outcome and protect the journey. Show the journey, not for clout. Because somebody in the circle right now is in the middle of a silent season and they need to know that somebody who looks like them and came from where they came from made it through the storm, through the silence, through the void, right? Be the clap that nobody else is giving. Be the validation you never receive, not because it's your job, because it's your legacy, right? Final bosses do just final bosses don't just win. They build the road for the next one. And I need you to go build it, right? I need you to go build it. You know? And it's something I want you guys to understand, right? We got about 15 more minutes. So we got time. Right? I need you to decide tonight that the season you're in is not a detour. It is a route. The silence is not a malfunction. It is the condition which the real work gets done. The absence of claps is not evidence that the transformation is not real. It is the evidence that the transformation has not finished. That decision changes everything. It changes how you move through the next week. It changes how you handle the people who cannot see it yet. It changes how you respond when the comparison trap opens up. It changes how you treat those 2 a.m. moments when you wake up and nobody sees it. One decision. The season is the route, not the detour. Right? And here's what I know about the person who makes that decision and holds it. They come out of the silence with something that cannot be manufactured. A depth that holds weight under pressure. A foundation that does not crack when the spotlight finally hits. A story that is worth telling because they stayed in the chapter long enough to finish it. The rebirth that nobody claps for is the one that makes everything else possible. Season 5 is called The Harvest. It begins at episode number 300. You do not get the harvest without going through the rebirth, right? And you do not go through the rebirth by performing your way past it. You have to endure the silence. You have to live in the void. You have to embrace it. You go through it, right? Without an applause. You do this one day at a time. Because the harvest is coming for everyone in the room who stays in the ground long enough to grow. Stay in the ground. Be that seed, right? Be that seed. Now, what are we at? We got about 12 minutes left. I'm gonna do a look. I need to take a commercial break real quick. Do a commercial break, and I'll be right back. I'll be right back with you guys. Give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Oh man, my man Terry's in the building. I see you, Terry. I see you, Chef. Barwab, I see you. Thank you for joining us. Oh man, some familiar names that I haven't seen in a while are in the building, and I greatly appreciate you guys, man. Thank you for joining us. Look, I know we're about to close. We got a couple more minutes, right? But I need you to do, I say that a lot. Man. It's still go time. It is still go time, right? And let's talk about, we haven't talked about audit tonight, right? We haven't talked about audit. And I need you to do an identity audit, right? And I need you to do this before we close this episode completely, because I want to give you something practical to walk away with, right? Not a feeling, but a tool. And the tool, of course, is called the identity audit. I talk about the identity audit a lot, right? It is the most honest thing you can do for yourself in the middle of a silent season. And here's how it works. Get pen and paper right now. Get ready. Take some notes. Yes, you. No bathroom break. No hallway pass. Sit your ass down. Class is in session. We're almost done, right? You get dismissed in 10 minutes, right? Take some notes. This is what you want. This is how the identity audit works, right? You sit down somewhere quiet, right? No phone, no noise, and you answer 3 questions in writing. I need you to write this out, right? Not in your head, on paper, not on your phone, in the notes, on paper, right? Because the head will lie to you and paper does not lie, right? And here's the first question I need you to ask yourself. You're talking to yourself now, right? Question number 1. Who were you 12 months ago? Not what I was doing or not what you were doing. Who were you? What value did you have? What were you afraid of? What were you willing to accept? What was the thing that you weren't willing to say out loud? Write that down on a piece of paper, right? Don't edit it, right? Don't protect those thoughts. Write it down and be honest, right? Be honest with yourself. Question number 2. Ask yourself, who are you right now? Same parameters, right? Not what you're doing. Who are you? Where the fear lives today. What you value now that you did not value then, right? What you're willing to say now that you would not have said before. Write the person, you. Write that to yourself. Using the same level of honesty, right? And then there's question number 3. Ask yourself, who is the version of you that the silence is building toward? Not who you wish you were, not who other people want you to be. The version that the work you're doing in private is constructing right now, whether you are conscious of it or not. Describe that person as specifically as you can, right? The gap in between question 1 and question 3 is your rebirth in real time on paper, right? Most people never do this. They live in the transformation without documenting. You need to start documenting. You want to be successful. You want to be a millionaire. You want to be a billionaire. People, you have to start writing stuff down. You have to hold yourself accountable. Grab you some paper and start writing this shit down. You have to document your life. You want to progress and be who you want to be and who you were meant to be. You have to start writing it down, right? You have to start documenting. The documents equal metrics, right? The documents equal metrics. Without the metrics, without the documents, you cannot see how far you've come because you never recorded it, right? Tonight, you need to start doing that. Tonight is when you start the audit. And then you do this every week, right? I'm going to show you something that the mirror cannot. I trust me on that. I'm going to show you something the mirror cannot, right? Now, which flag I want? Stop where you at. Right. Hold on. I want to do something tonight that I know most podcasters never do. And I want you to give me permission, right? So I got the red. Oh, that's the wrong flag. Let me get the white flag out. Oh, crap. Let me get the white flag out, right? White flag. I need your permission. I need your permission. White flag. I'm waving a white flag, right? I'm waving a white flag. I surrender to you, right? And I need your permission. I need your permission, right? Not permission to quit, not permission to slow down, permission to be exactly where you are without apologizing for it. Be unapologetic, right? Because the one of the most exhausting things about the silent scenes is the performance of being okay that runs on top of it. You have to be okay, right? You're in the middle of a real transformation, and you are also managing how the transformation looks to everyone around you. You are working on the inside and performing on the outside simultaneously, and the load and weight is on your shoulders, right? And those things nobody wants to account for, right? Nobody wants to talk about the cost of growth, because there's a cost. There's a tax to pay, right? When you're growing. And tonight, I'm saying it out loud and clearly. You do not have to perform okay. You don't have to perform to be okay. You do not have to have the answers. You do not have to know exactly where this is going or how long that going is going to take or the outcome, right? Or what it looks like. You do not have to project certainty you do not feel or confidence you not fully earned yet. You're allowed to be in the process. You are allowed to be in mid-transformation. You are allowed to be in the part of the story that has not resolved yet. The pressure you are putting yourself in is already on the other side of this, right? Adding weight to a load that you haven't seen, right? Adding weight to a load that's already heavy enough. You need to put that pressure down, right? The rebirth is not a performance. It is a process. And the processes have timelines that do not care about your urgency or the audience that you're performing for. You have to trust the timeline. You have to trust the process. You have to do the work and give yourself permission to not have it all figured out. You are not behind, you are in progress. There is a significant difference between these two things. You need to learn to feel it, right? All right, we got 2 minutes left. Here's my final word. Here's my final word, right? Excuse me. We've all been here, right? We've all been here before, right? We've been in these moments. We've been talking about the rebirth. We've talked about the audits. We've talked about the validation process. We've talked about the trust and trust in the process. We've talked about all these different things. And somewhere in the audience right now, someone out there, right? Smarts, final bosses, warriors, motivators, the sovereign, right? Somewhere out there, someone who almost didn't tune in tonight because they were tired, because they had a long day, right? Because the week has been heavy, because the season that they're in is longer than expected and harder than what they planned for. And something told them to turn this on anyway. You're here. Welcome to the Final Boss family, Final Boss community, Final Boss nation, Final Boss family, right? That person is who this entire episode is for. That's who it was built for, right? Not the person who's winning publicly right now, not the person whose highlight reel is clean and whose inbox is full of congratulations. That person does not need this episode tonight. They are celebrated right now. They are fine. They are fine, right? They are fine. This was for the person in between. The one doing the work with no audience, no claps, no likes, no highlight reel. The one holding the vision with no validation. The one who woke up this morning and made a decision to keep going even though nothing around them confirmed that keep going was the right call, right? The decision you made this morning, that was the most important thing you did today. Not the most visible, not the most celebrated, not the most important. Because every person you have ever admired who built something real made the same decision on a morning exactly like yours. In that season, exactly like this, the rebirth, with exactly the same absence of claps surrounding them. They kept going, and the world eventually found what they built. The world will find you and what you're building. Stay with it. Stay in the silence. Stay in the season. Right? The rebirth is not the moment that claps in the beginning or at the start. The rebirth is the decision you made before anyone was watching to become who you are supposed to be, regardless of who is watching. You are already that decision. Now finish what you started. Go finish what you started, right? Go finish it. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised at what comes out of the storm. You're going to be surprised what comes out of the silence, right? And before we close, episode 215, let me leave you with some resources, right? Let me leave you with this, right? We talked about a lot of different things tonight, right? And I want to connect you with some resources that you can use to increase and improve what you're going through in the silence, right? The War of Art by Steven Pressfield, right? Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Atomic Habits by James Clear. And of course, the Final Boss Podcast, episode 190. We talked about the desire paradox in that episode. Your starting point if you want to understand the intellectual foundation of everything we are building this season. Like, share, subscribe, and follow us on all platforms, right? Share this episode tonight with somebody who's in the silent season and who needs to hear this. One share could be the only clap somebody gets this week. Let's make it count. We are live every single week, 5 times, 5 shows, 5 mirrors, all pointing at your growth. I am the one, the only, the final boss. I am here. We are here, right? This is season 4 of the Rebirth, episode number 215. The rebirth nobody claps for is still the rebirth that counts. And as always, if this resonated with you, share it with 3 other people, right? And if it does resonate, then let it marinate in your spine. And remember, there's a heavy pain that comes with discipline, but there's an even heavier pain that comes with regret, right? A heavy pain that comes with regret. Smarts, motivators, warriors, final bosses, the sovereign. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Thank you for joining us. This has been episode number 215 of the Final Boss Podcast. To my Final Boss family, to Final Boss Nation, Final Boss family, Final Boss community, I am here. We are here. Be balanced, be equal, and be smart. That is our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, I see you guys on Sunday for Sitting Down Sundays with the Final Boss. Y'all have a great night and a great week. Rest of your week. See you Sunday.
They thought it was over. They thought the fire burned out. But fire doesn't destroy the chosen. It forges them. Hosted by Turbo, the CEO. New energy, new strategy. Every setback builds strength. Every loss builds strategy. And every leader rises again. The rebirth begins. Season 4. Bigger conversations. Real strategy. Power moves only. Monday motivation. Tech Tuesday. Merger Wednesday. Special guest Thursdays, sit down Sundays. Season 4 starts now. Tap in or get left behind, because bosses don't wait, they lead.